Though Thomas Hughes could only make annual visits to the colony, his younger brother Hastings would stay to help manage affairs. And in a show of support, his 83-year-old mother would arrive that spring.
All is settled. I and mine leave for America by the Illinois that leaves Liverpool on May the 11th, and, please God, will, I hope, reach Philadelphia on the 24th or 25th. Margaret Hughes.
Fearless and determined to support her son's colony, Margaret Hughes made the grueling transatlantic journey accompanied by her granddaughter Emily, the widowed Hastings' only daughter.
You have no conception what a superior character Emmy has become since you saw her. Though only 17, she has all the thought, energy, and determination of a woman of 30, with all the joyousness and fun of a young girl.
The arrival of Madam Hughes breathed new life into the colony, and she immediately became Rugby's unofficial First Lady, taking up residence at Uffington, named after Thomas Hughes' birthplace in England. Meanwhile, Emily was making plans.
I am going to buy 1/2 acre of land here and set up a farmyard and keep fowls and goats and bees and have a fernery. The ferns here are perfectly magnificent. Emily Hughes.
But Emily's plans were cut short. First came the drought that would last for months. Then came the fever.
Typhoid fever at Rugby. Case notes: Emily Hughes, female, age 17, anorexia, insomnia, face pale, mind clouded, temperature of 102 degrees. Cincinnati Lancet.
Emily would lie near death for 3 weeks, one of 21 colonists stricken. 7 would die, all British sons, all laid to rest here in Laurel Dale Cemetery.
This was not paradise. This must have been hell.
Emily would fully recover, but the town would not fare as well.
And so the image then that the media took was that paradise was lost.
By the time the drought ended, Rugby too seemed near death.
The place has received a blow from which it will take years to recover, if it ever does.
Despite the difficulties, a pioneering spirit took hold. Local laborers joined in building dozens of Victorian structures, a schoolhouse church, printing shop, and tomato cannery. And against all odds, a library would rise.
Rugby is quite recovering from the disasters and dismays she suffered last year, and people's hearts are reviving. The great publishers of New York, Boston, and other cities have generously promised 6,000 books for the proposed Hughes Public Library here.
By the time the library opened in 1882, it housed more than 5,000 volumes donated by British and American publishers. 2,000 more came from the colonists themselves.
Civilization, culture, refinement, intellect, all of these things that we associate with books. Ideally, we'd like to think that those things can be transferred from one place to another and can go on.
To the colonists, the splendid new library proclaimed to the world that Rugby had not only survived, but survived in style.
The place is quite recovering itself and likely to do very well before long, and the settlers are a capital lot now, winnowed by their early trials.
With 300 residents now on hand, Rugby was quickly becoming a 19th century global village. There were gentlemen like William Henry Gilliat, a tobacco merchant from Liverpool; Cornelius Onderdonk, a Dutchman who designed and built many of Rugby's key buildings; Hattie Shelby, who ran the village laundry; and Samuel Logan Alexander, an Appalachian farmer and businessman.
As the colony makeup changed to more couples and families, it became more stable, and there were more people here able and willing to embrace a life that meant building up their community almost single-handedly.
Hughes believed the hard work should be tempered by a cultured leisure, so there was the Rugby Lawn Tennis Club, the Music and Dramatic Society, and the Rugby Cornet Band. And thanks to new technology, one young colonist was able to capture it all.
I have just begun to try my hand at photography. A few weeks ago, a Rugby gentleman, Mr. Wilson, offered to help me. He had never photographed, but being a geologist, he understands all the chemicals.
Over the next few years, Emily Hughes would take hundreds of photographs, processing the negatives in a makeshift darkroom at Uffington House. Her photos remained to tell Rugby's story, and by 1884, there was a lot of story to tell.
By 1884, Rugby had indeed reached its heyday, and the Tabard was one of the most popular watering places along the whole Cincinnati Southern Railroad.
With its Irish linen and afternoon teas, the Tabard Inn, indeed the colony itself, stood in stark contrast to the housing conditions common to the Appalachian area.
They are poor almost to a man, and live in log huts and cabins with a minute patch of corn round it.
The small population of earlier Scots-Irish settlers were a bit skeptical of these Rugby colonists.
They are suspicious in all dealings at first, but hospitable, making everything they have in the house, including their own beds, free to a stranger.
Emily Hughes seemed particularly charmed by the Massengales, a farm family who had lived nearby for 2 generations.
After dinner, we went to see Mrs. Marsengale. She carded wool and spun some to show us how it was done. After she had spun a little, she lighted her pipe and sat by the fire and talked to us.
With things going so well, Hughes splurged during his annual visit to the colony, hosting a dinner party for 65 colonists here at Newberry House. It looked like Rugby had indeed turned the corner.
Conflagration, the Tabard in flames. Thursday, October 16, records the most terrible disaster that has happened in the village of Rugby. The Hotel Tabard, the far-famed hostelry, now lies a heap of smoldering ruins. The Rugby Inn.
The Tabard, a major source of income for the colony, was now gone. This, combined with slow land sales, threatened Rugby's future. Still, Thomas Hughes hung on. Construction continued on his new home, Kingston Lisle, and plans were made to rebuild the Tabard Inn.